This is behind the bit. This is behind the bit.
This is behind
the bit.
For the past 20 years, you've seen and heard bits on the Dan Le Batard Show. You may have wondered to yourself, what are these bits? And what's wrong with these people?
Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson.
Coming up at the show, Steven Jackson.
Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson. Coming up in the show,
Steven Jackson.
Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson.
Coming up in the show,
Steven Jackson.
Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson.
Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson.
Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson. Coming up in the show, Steven Jackson.
Coming. Oh, that's funny, bro.
Hello?
Yeah, buddy, I want to talk to you about this LeBron situation.
Yeah, what happened to LeBron?
LeBron, he left us, buddy. He up and left.
I know. He's gone now. You know, he came down here to Miami as a loser 4 years ago, and now he goes back as a two-time champion.
I think he used us, buddy. He comes here, he takes all the resources, and now he's gone to Cleveland, buddy.
That's right. He's a bum. You don't believe anything you read or anything that he says. You know, he's funny. The guy is funny as a $3 bill.
Yeah.
I just hope that he stays in Akron, Ohio, there in Cleveland, and he never goes back to South Beach.
That's right.
There. We don't need him down here.
We don't need him. It's right, buddy. We don't need LeBron.
That's right, buddy. I got my money on the Heat this year. We're going to shock the NBA world. You watch.
That's right. We're going to shock them because we are going to be the champions. The media does not get to decide, buddy. It's decided on the court, and the Heat are going to be the champions. I talk to you soon. All right.
Take care.
What's Papi's origin story?
The lovable sitcom dad, you know, that's derivative of several decades on television, and that's kind of what Dan, whether he knew it or not, was going for.
Dan's all about family, right? Papi's a gigantic Heat fan, and we used to have him come on the show to talk about the Heat all the time. Once LeBron and Chris Bosh came on the team, we had him basically all the time. Really, it's just family.
We had a big voice that was a very popular character, this guy David Lee, but we had to stop using him once we went to ESPN. And it was a real challenge for the show, like what do we do? Because a big voice was such a central character to what it is that we were doing, but ESPN wouldn't allow for it because he was also voicing Westwood One, which was a competitor. So I got to thinking on who could be the next show voice, and then it dawned on me, Papi's got an instantly recognizable voice. It leans into the more Miami aspects because we were struggling with how do we make this show feel more Miami now that it's national, and that was a very easy way to do it.
Dan's an incredibly family-oriented person, and I think it's been the joy of his career and one of the joys of his life to work side by side with Papi. Dan kids me to this day. When he first started Highly Questionable with his dad, I sort of questioned aloud, is this chemistry gonna work? And Dan hasn't stopped making fun of me for questioning something that actually did work very well, but I was questioning whether an older Cuban gentleman with a very thick accent would go over on American sports television, and Dan made it so. Their chemistry was great, and I think it was a big success.
I think it honestly speaks more to Dan's eye for comedy and funny, because Papi's freaking hilarious. Like, I think Dan has a big family and he has a lot of friends, and he chose Papi and my dad to put on the show. Like, Dan gets it. Papi, like my dad, is just who he is, and he's gonna say what he thinks, and those are the best kind of people, because he's not thinking like, oh, I'm doing content, oh, I need to please people. Papi is just himself. He's gonna shoot it straight, and it's gold a lot of the time, because Papi is just one of those guys. When you get him ranting, a lot of times with Papi over the years, we bring him in to do something. There's no script for Papi. Dan's a family man, but he's got an eye for funny. And Papi, whether intentional, like with you, whether intentional or unintentional, Papi's funny.
The thing that we used to do with Papi, though, that was one of the most fun things that we did is my phone calls with my father that were off air were always very funny to me. And so we would just call him on air and not tell him that we were airing what he was saying, so that people could vicariously lived through our relationship because they were real calls. My father was never acting in them. And I don't think, you never knew that we were airing your phone calls, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know that. I used to make a lot of fun of the Marlins. Oh, the Marlins.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins. Oh,
And the Dolphins. He's had a lot of opportunities over the years to make fun of South Florida sports.
Hello?
Papi,
Yeah.
the Dolphin.
What do you mean the Dolphin? Kiko was the one that made it happen. Never mind the Dolphins. They almost lost that game. Kiko.
They won, Papi.
Kiko, he won. The kid from Hialeah, the capital of the black beans and rice. Kiko. This is the first time since 1972, Manny Fernandez, that they have a Latino player.
All right. Well, you sound happy. I'm surprised.
First time since 1972 that the Dolphins have a Latino
you mentioned that
player.
already. You already mentioned that. All right. Gracias, Papi.
All right.
Te quiero.
Bye. Te quiero. Bye.
Do you remember meeting Papi for the first time?
I actually have a funny story. Me and Papi went to a Marlins game back when it was at Landshark Stadium at the time. It was against the Mets. Hanley Ramirez was batting for the Marlins, and I'm sitting next to him. All of a sudden, a foul ball came our way, split right between us, and I'm leaned over. The foul ball went right under his arm and hit the seat. I was like, wow, okay, and texted Dan about it, and Dan said, oh, you're not gonna protect my father there? What's going on? Like, oh, well, I just moved to my left a couple of inches. I mean, I could have put my hand up and that would have been fine.
Were you guys able to grab that ball?
Yeah, Gonzo, Papi got the ball and gave it to a kid next to him. So yeah, that was nice.
What did you think of Papi's sports takes?
They were hilarious because of the way that he would deliver them. Papi Sports takes, especially when it came to the Marlins, he would always seize on some of the more ridiculous aspects of what it is that we're doing. But we knew quite early on that Papi was a real star in the Le Batard family, so we decided to weaponize him.
He's critical. He's critical at times, and he's a homer at times. I think he's more unbiased than many of the media in America right now. I'm sure he's more unbiased than Stephen A. Smith at this point. But yeah, I agree with a lot of his takes.
When it comes to LeBron, for example, Papi is speaking as a big Heat fan who actually goes to games. There's zero journalism in what he's saying. There's zero polished announcer, broadcaster in what he's saying. It's all from the top, as a fan would say it. So that's an element of Papi's charm, I think.
How do you feel about Greg Cody and Chris Cody on the show together?
Oh, I think that is great. It's great that they're able to work together because it's always good when you have father and son working on anything. And they bring them together and everybody gets to know Greg Cody as Greg Cody, you know. I think that they have a podcast in addition.
They do, the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that Greg and Chris have helped us do over the years, and I just love them. And so it's moving to me that they would carry on the tradition of father-son that me and my father were doing on television, but we don't do performatively very much anymore. I believe that the greatest allegiances our show has is at least in part because somewhere within the love of that is a stickiness and an intimacy that's pretty uncommon to, something as silly as sports conversations.
Chris, what was it like for you doing the show with your dad?
At first, I was very insecure about it. Nepotism, all that stuff of people thinking things were handed to me, which obviously the opportunity was, but I put a lot of work into it. As he's gotten older, it has shifted into just very appreciative. We have our podcast on the side too that we do. As I've gotten into my mid-30s with my daughter, you grow away from friends. He's like my best friend now. We eat lunch all the time. I talk to him as much as anybody. I've reached the point, and he's reached the point where I'm just eternally grateful for all the opportunity. And despite our podcast listeners thinking I'm a constant asshole to him, which I kind of am, but it's all out of love. We have a great relationship. I know I'm always good with him because of how close we are.
It's another layer of our friendship, beyond just father and son. It's because we're coworkers, but we're father and son who are coworkers. I enjoy it so much.
Will we see more of Papi on the show?
That's always up to Papi. It's always up to Papi how much he's on the show. My father has his own rules, and he can appear whenever he wants to. He'll tell you, I'm always asking him to come by, but my father also is enjoying retirement. He's enjoying puttering around the house. He's been working for many, many years. He doesn't have to work anymore if he doesn't want to.
It's true. I get to call my own shots now.
What about that? What about that? That's real freedom in retirement. He came from Cuba to call his own shots now. Even if his son needs to milk the last bits out of his fame to get a few more clicks.